Hello, my name is Teacher Lydia, and I am going to read part of Chapter 1 from Laura Ingalls Wilder's book, The Little House in the Big Woods. I love Laura Ingalls Wilder. She is one of my favorite authors, and I'm very excited to get to share my love of her writing with you. This is about harvesting a pig. Then one day, Uncle Henry came riding out of the big woods. He had come to help Pa butcher. Ma's big butcher knife was already sharpened, and Uncle Henry had brought Aunt Polly's butcher knife. Near the pig pen, Pa and Uncle Henry built a bonfire and heated a great kettle of water over it. When the water was boiling, they went to kill the pig. Then Laura ran and hid her head on the bed and stopped her ears with her fingers so she could not hear the hog squeal. "It doesn't hurt him, Laura," Pa said. "We do it so quickly." But she did not want to hear him squeal. In a minute, she took her finger out of her ear, cautiously, and listened. The hog had stopped squealing. After that, butchering time was great fun. It was such a busy day, with so much to see and do. Uncle Henry and Pa were jolly, and there would be spare ribs for dinner. And Pa promised Laura and Mary the bladder and the pig's tail. How about that? Would you like to eat a bladder and a pig's tail? Well, let's see if they actually eat the bladder and what they do with the pig's tail. As soon as the hog was dead, Pa and Uncle Henry lifted it up and down in the boiling water until it was scalded. Then they laid it on a board and scraped it with their knives, and all the bristles came off. After that, the bristles means hair. Hogs are like people, they have fine hair on their skin. After that, they hung the hog in a tree, took out the insides, and left it hanging to cool. When it was cool, they took it down and cut it up. There were hams and shoulders, side meat and spare ribs and the belly. There was the heart and the liver, and the tongue and the head to be made into head cheese, and the dishpan full of bits to be made into sausage. The meat was laid on a board in the back door shed, and every piece was sprinkled with salt. The hams and the shoulders were put to pickle in brine, for they would be smoked, like the venison in the hollow log. "You can't beat a hickory-cured ham," Pa said. He was blowing up the bladder. It made a little white balloon, and he tied the end tight with a string and gave it to Mary and Laura to play with. They could throw it in the air and spat it back and forth with their hands, or it would bounce along the ground and they would kick it. I wonder, did Mary and Laura have soccer balls and basketballs to play with? I don't think so. I think this was a real treat for them because they didn't have balls to play with like we do nowadays. But even better than the balloon was the pig's tail. Pa skinned it for them carefully, and into the large end he thrust a sharpened stick. Ma opened the front of the cook stove and raked heated coals out into the iron hearth. That means that she took the fire, a little bit of the fire, and put it out so that Laura and Mary could get to it. Then Laura and Mary took turns holding the pig's tail over the coals. Remember, it was on a stick, kind of like when we heat a marshmallow over the fire to make s'mores when we're camping. Well, this is kind of the same principle. It sizzled and fried. Have you ever made bacon? Just like that. and drops of fat dripped off of it and blazed on the coals. Ma sprinkled it with salt. Their hands and their faces got very hot, and Laura burned her finger, but she was so excited she didn't care. Roasting the pig's tail was such fun that it was hard to play fair, taking turns. At last it was finished. It was nicely browned all over, and how good it smelled! They carried it into the yard to cool it, and even before it was cool enough, they began tasting it and burned their tongues. They ate every little bit of meat off of the bones, and then they gave the bones to Jack. And that was the end of the pig's tail. There would not be another one until next year. And that is the end of harvesting the pig. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for listening.